Hi guys, I wanted to share with you guys my story about breastfeeding. It's such like an emotional story for me that I honestly haven't been able to talk about it until now because holy cow, I had no idea that something that seemed so simple to me before I had a baby could like totally rock my world. First of all, just a disclaimer. We're going to be talking about breastfeeding, so obviously there's going to be lots of words like nipple, breasts, and voluptuous. Want to know about breastfeeding, this is like going to give you a lot of in-depth details about it. If not, just turn it off. I promise I won't be offended. I just didn't know if anybody else had a hard time like I did, and I wanted to feel kind of normal, like it's okay that it's hard, and it's okay that you struggle. And the reason I'm making this is so that if there is somebody out there that's a new mom and that's had similar struggles to me, you're not alone and you're not crazy, and that it's normal and it happens. First things first, I didn't know anything about breastfeeding. Like I didn't really have an opinion, or at least I didn't think I had an opinion. I was kind of just like, yeah, I'll breastfeed. Like I have 2 boobs, I'll breastfeed. And so I didn't research it. I didn't do anything like that like I should have. And right after I had Jocelyn, they were really good about just like, okay, we need to breastfeed now. We're gonna try and get her to latch. And it went really well, or I thought it went really well. I remember the nurses told me like, you have the most perfect breastfeeding nipples. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, what? That's the weirdest compliment I think I've ever had in my entire life. But I left the hospital feeling like, okay, like my equipment's there, I can do this. I got home, and it takes a little while for your milk to actually come in. Like at first you're producing what's called colostrum. You're not really making milk yet, and like the baby's sucking motion is what brings in your milk. And so they just tell you, just keep nursing, like your baby will lose a little bit of weight, but your milk's gonna come in right away, you'll be fine. And sure enough, holy cow, my boobs were like boulders. Like I remember going to my sister and being like, feel my boob. Like it's like the weirdest thing. They're just like rocks. They're so hard. And so my milk came in, and I was just like, awesome, my body's doing exactly what it needs to be doing. Came time to go to her, one of her first appointments, and we got there, and I just felt like on top of the world. I was like, my baby's breastfeeding, my milk came in, she's so happy and content, like she's doing awesome. And then the doctor was just like, did you know that she hasn't gained any weight? She's actually still losing weight. And I had no idea. I remember feeling so terrible. Like I could not stop being mean to myself. Like, you've been starving your baby. How could you not know? And she just hadn't been latched properly the whole time. And I had no idea how important latch was. I'd heard about latch, but like until you kind of experience it, you have no idea what that even means. And she just hadn't latched on, so she was like sucking, but she wasn't getting any milk. And I found that out at her first appointment. So bring on the like multiple lactation consultants, right? So we went to tons of lactation consultants, and every time we went, they were like, yeah, she's fine, she'll get the hang of it, she's not doing great now, she's just so little, but it'll be fine. And so we kept just trying. We kept trying and trying and trying. And at this point, it had been about 2 weeks since I'd had Jocelyn. I just felt so discouraged. Like you get this sense of panic with breastfeeding at first, because you can't physically see how much your baby's getting, and then to like go to an appointment and for a doctor to be like, yeah, your baby's starving, then you just like are on high alert. You're so freaked out all the time. Like, I don't know how much she's getting. Is she okay? And Jocelyn was always just like content. Like she's never been a really like needy eater. She totally just woke up from her nap. She is like so not going down for naps today. Where are you? So if I'm wiggling, it's because there's a baby sitting in my lap. You get this sense of panic all the time. You have no idea how much your baby's getting, and then the doctor tells you, you know, that your baby's not eating well and that she's losing weight still, and you're just so freaked out. So I kept going to lactation consultants, and they gave me lots of tips about how to latch her and to, like, you know, do hand compressions while she was nursing, and I just was doing everything that I could have to just try and help her out. And like at that point after your baby's born, like, you're so exhausted. They are waking up every 2 hours to feed, and you're just so tired. Like, I can't even explain the amount of tired that you are experiencing. So it's really hard to be like 100% like, okay, we're gonna try and get you latched on right every time, and we're gonna just really make sure that you're, you know, I'm doing hand compressions. So I was doing my best. I was so tired. I know I didn't, you know, do 100% the best I could have or whatever, but I was just trying my best. So the doctor had me going into like weight checks because she was still losing weight. So I went to the next weight check. It was like, she was 3 weeks old at this point, and she hadn't gained an ounce. And I was just like, I was devastated. I was so devastated. And I was just like, I'm doing everything I can. What do I do? At this point, the doctor was like, you need to supplement. Like, you need to give your baby something else because she's hungry. And I was like, of course I was not going to starve Jocelyn. So I started supplementing with formula. And she did really well with formula. She started, she did super well with formula. She started drinking, I mean, like, I'd breastfeed her and then offer her a bottle after that, and she was drinking at least 8 ounces a day just of formula as well as breastfeeding. So she was doing really well with that. And she started gaining weight, and that was great. And I guess this sense of like failure and like disappointment came over me, and it's hard to explain, but like when you don't know how much you want to breastfeed until you can't, or you feel like you just have no choice anymore. And I just felt like guilty. I felt terrible about myself. I was just like, what's wrong with you? Like, it was something wrong with me because my equipment was fine. I was making milk, but somehow, like, I couldn't get my baby to gain weight or to eat properly. The thing about lactation consultants is that they will always tell you to keep trying to breastfeed. Like, they will never be like, you're right, switch to formula, because that is a good option. Like, they are there because they believe 100% in just breastfeeding, you know? So I was kind of looking for an out at this point. Like, I felt terrible, and I wanted someone to be like, it's okay, Sarah. Go ahead and like give her formula. She's gonna grow just fine either way, you know? And to the lactation consultant, kind of just like in a last ditch effort. I was like, they're gonna see that, so when you go to a lactation consultant, they have you weigh your baby before and after you breastfeed them. So I was like, they're gonna see that she's getting nothing, and they're gonna be like, go ahead, switch to formula. Like, that's in my mind what I just really wanted to happen. And so I went, and she wasn't getting very much, and we, you know, breastfed right in front of her and showed her that I was doing hand compressions, and I was trying to get her latched on right and everything like that. And she said, well, do you want to try pumping? Because, you know, breast milk is better than formula, and you can still do this as if you pump, because your baby takes a bottle just fine, and so why don't you try pumping? So I started pumping. Holy cow, if like breastfeeding takes about 45 minutes when they're really young, because they don't know how to do it and you don't know what you're doing, like you're both just stumbling around. And so with trying to breastfeed her and then trying to pump afterwards, oh, she has my hair. With trying to do both of those, like, it is literally a 24/7 job. So I started pumping because she's like, okay, so keep breastfeeding because that's the end goal. We want her to breastfeed. And and then just go pump afterwards and get whatever extra milk you can and then feed that to her in a bottle. And it sounded like a great plan at the lactation consultant. And I was like, okay, so she didn't give me permission to stop breastfeeding, so I need to keep going because I really haven't done everything I can. And so I started breastfeeding her 40 minutes, and then I would pump, and she'd sit there and lay in her crib and cry. It was terrible. And then I would go clean the stuff, all the pumping equipment, and then I'd get done, and then I'd feed her the bottle of the pumped milk that I had just gotten, and then I would breastfeed her again because it was time for her to eat. Because babies, when they're young, they eat every 2 hours, and it's every 2 hours, if you're wondering, from the beginning of the feeding. So if it's taking me 40 minutes, you know, then I only have 80 minutes left, and those 80 minutes were pumping and feeding her a bottle again, and then, you know, repeat. I was so depressed at that point. Like, that was a low for me. I remember just sitting there with, like, you feel like a cow with, you know, these pumps on your boobs, and I just would sit there and I would cry. Like, I would just sob because I just didn't think it was going to be so incredibly hard. And I thought it would be something that was like really bonding. Like, I remember talking to my sister-in-law and being like, everybody says it's such a sweet experience and like such a good bonding time with you and your baby, and for me it's like the thing I dread, you know, trying to nurse, and we're fumbling around and neither of us can get the hang of it, and then going and pumping and feeling like a milking cow. I cried so much. I cried so much. After the pumping, she started to nurse a little bit better, you know, every week. And I felt like it was right at 3 months old that she was kind of okay on her own. She could breastfeed well enough to not need to pump anymore. So it was at 3 months that I stopped pumping. And we did well for a little while. And then she decided she didn't want to nurse at all unless it was laying down. And gosh, if you're nursing every 2 hours and you have to be physically laying down in order to feed your baby, like, you feel like you're about to go insane. You can't go out anywhere, you know, forget grocery shopping or forget trying to be out in public, because if your baby's hungry, you gotta lay down somewhere. Like, I was at a park once and I just grabbed a blanket, put the blanket over our heads and laid down in the grass. Like, that's how bad it was. So she went in that stage for about a month, and I just thought, like, okay, you know, at 3 months I was like, we passed the hardest part. And then, you know, that stage went full mode, the laying down nursing stage happened, and I was just like, crap, like, it's not gonna get easier. So then that stage passed, and I was like, okay, things are fine, and I felt good. I felt like really comfortable. Like, I would go to get her weighed quite a bit, like about once a week. And she was gaining well, she was doing okay. And so then I went on a trip to California. And I call this period like the most miserable and worried you will ever feel, period. We got to California and she went on a full-on hunger strike. Like, she would eat enough to be alive, basically. Sounds so terrible saying it, but she wouldn't eat any more than that. She would just refuse to eat. At this point I was like, I have tried everything in my power. If she's not eating, I am not going to push breastfeeding. Like, I'm going to do what's best for my baby. And so I tried to start feeding her formula, and she wouldn't take either. She would just eat very, very little, maybe a half ounce, every feeding, maybe an ounce. And that was it. She was so tiny. I have never felt so, like, terribly stressed out, and just like I was about to reach Crazyville. Because when you are trying, you know as a mom that something is wrong with your baby, but you can't prove it. You know, you can't ask your baby what's wrong with them, and it's your responsibility as a mom to figure it out. And so I was just like driving myself nuts, like, maybe it's this, maybe it's this, maybe it's this, and just racking my brain for any possible solution. Went home, and so then I started seeing specialists. You know, we went to an ear and throat specialist. At one point she saw a brain specialist because maybe it was pressure happening in her brain. Like everything that you can imagine. And at that point I was so over like the whole breast is best, because I was just like, I just want my baby to eat, you know, I don't care if it's formula, I don't care if it's breast milk. Again, we went into like the serious crying stage. Like I was just an emotional wreck. And finally my doctor, in one of her appointments, I was just like, she's still not eating, and I was there every week, and he was frustrated because he didn't know what else to suggest, and he was just like, I remember him saying, we've never tried her for acid reflux. And I was like, yeah, but she doesn't ever spit up. She doesn't ever have any type of like problems with like that are typical of acid reflux. So like, we didn't really think to do that. And he was like, well, let's put her on the medication. Like we have nothing to lose. Let's try it. So we did that. And then literally 2-3 days later, she was eating like a champ. And like, I just took a big breath of air. I was like, everything is okay. Since that point, she's been eating well. Like, as long as she gets her medication, she's okay. So I don't know what it was at 4 months that flared up like that made her just, you know, not able to eat at all. But that's the story. Like, that's where we're at. She's 6 months old now. She's still breastfeeding. And it has been such a hard thing. Like, I thought, you know, reading all these blogs, like after the first month, it's going to be so easy. You're going to love it. And after the first 3 months, it's going to be so easy. You're going to love it. And then I didn't find anything after 3 months, and I just felt like such a freak. Like, holy cow, everything's still going wrong, and I don't know what to do. So for me, like, breastfeeding it's never been something that I have loved. Like, I haven't been able to, like, now that she's eating well, it's less of a stressor for sure, but I don't think I've ever had the experience of like, this is something I love. Okay, sorry, my battery just died. I like am literally talking my battery to death. Oh, here again. Okay, so back where I was. I have never felt like I am super comfortable with breastfeeding. I haven't felt like it's something that I really love, and it makes me feel terrible saying it, but like, it has been such a hard experience for me that it is literally at least once every 2 weeks, like, I have to recommit and be like, I can do this. I'm choosing to breastfeed my daughter. This is hard, but I still want to do this. Maybe there will be a time when I wake up and I'm like, it's time to stop. But she's breastfeeding really well right now. I still don't feel comfortable really like nursing in public. We're still kind of like a fumbly mess there because I never nursed her with a cover because I was always doing like hand compressions that literally, like, I never nursed with a cover, and so now trying to do it in public, she's tearing it off and she's like going crazy. And so the whole public thing, we'll maybe figure that out soonish. There are a few things, I guess, that I would say if you're a new mom and you haven't breastfed and you just want to know, like, I guess some things to know before, or that I would do differently. If at 2 months, I wish I would have told myself, if at 2 months, if it's not working, just switch to formula. And there are some people that are going to be so against what I just said, but I think that it is so important to you in those early days for you to like emotionally be there as well. Hey, you okay? You want your toy? Oh my gosh, what is this? What's this butterfly? So important for you to emotionally be there and be healthy, that if it's like, breastfeeding can take such an emotional toll, and I know that it sounds like it's such a little thing, but if it's not going right, it can seriously mess with you. Like, you can feel so desperate and so alone and so sad. You can feel so sad. I would say if it doesn't work at 2 months, for your mental sanity and just emotional stability at that point, just switch. The other thing I would say is that right away, like, talk to your nurses about latching, because your baby just sitting there sucking doesn't necessarily do anything. The latch, like getting your baby, oh, she's tugging my hair so hard. Getting your baby to latch really well is what allows them to get milk. So talk to your nurses, be like, okay, show me again, because what the heck did you just do? Basically what helped me the most was, they call it, look this up, the nip flip. I can't believe I'm saying this on camera. You hold your breast, you flip your nipple up, and then you compress it like a sandwich so that it can fit into their mouth. That helped a lot. Look that up. The other thing is, if you don't have enough milk, which, like, because I was supplementing, my milk supply went down and I had to increase, look up power pumping. That's another way to increase your milk supply if you need your baby to be getting, if you need to make more milk for your baby. But overall, I would just say, like, put your emotional well-being and your sanity as a really high priority, because you're never going to get those days back. And I was pretty dang depressed and pretty dang sad for a lot of that time, because motherhood has taught me anything. It's that, like, as a mom, we all do different things because we all feel that different things are best for our babies. And I will never judge another mother for what they do, because, like, we're all just trying to do our best and make it work the best that we know how. Just do your best, and do your best, forget the rest. I don't know what movie that's from, but do that. Just like with sleep is another hard thing that, you know, moms are trying to figure out. Do what works for you, what you're comfortable with. Nobody's gonna do it the same, no baby's the same. But I hope this helped. If this helps one person, know that they're not alone in how extremely difficult breastfeeding can be for some people. You are not alone. Oh my gosh, I am here for you. Please send me an email so we can talk about breastfeeding and lactation consultants. I will talk to you about all that stuff. Holy cow. I hope this helped you guys. It's like kind of therapeutic for me to talk about it, to be honest. So if anything, it just helped me get it out there. But you're doing awesome as a mom. You can do this. You can do hard things, and you know what's best for your baby. And don't let anybody tell you what to do, because you know what's best. You're their mom. Isn't that right, Jessie? Okay. Can we say bye? Bye! You're so happy! She's so happy! She's so happy! Who's that in the camera?